Everybody ready? Ready? Everybody ready? Okay, I'll wait. Good evening. I'd like to thank everyone for being here tonight. As we begin tonight's meeting, I ask that those in the audience silence your cell phones. Cell phone notifications can be distracting to others in the audience and to the board as we conduct our meeting. Thank you. Board, do I have a motion to enter into never mind. Hold on a second. Board, do I have a motion to return to open session? Ms. Drake, can you call roll?
Ms. Bond? Ms. Franklin? Ms. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Ms. Cass? Ms. Parton?
Yes.
6 in favor.
Thank you. Motion carries. Do I have a motion to certify closed session that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which this certification applies, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered? Ms. Drake, can you please call roll?
Ms. Bond? Ms. Franklin? Ms. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Ms. Cass? Ms. Parton? 6 in favor.
Motion carries. Do I have a motion regarding student A? Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Ms. Drake, will you please call roll?
Ms. Bond? Ms. Franklin? Ms. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Ms. Cass? Ms. Parton? 6 in favor.
Thank you. Motion carries. Our next item on the agenda is the public hearing for the Esser expenditures. Our contingency in accepting federal Esser funds is that we will have a public hearing on our health and safety plan every 6 months. Tonight, we have set aside for a public hearing on Esser expenditures. Ms. Drake, do we have anyone signed up since last? Okay. Currently, there's no one signed up to speak. The public hearing on the Esser funds is now closed. Our next item on the agenda is public address. We welcome the opportunity to hear from students, parents, employees, and community members about education matters in the community. As a reminder, the board sets aside 30 minutes to start our public address. We have the option to extend in 30-minute increments, which Ms. Drake will remind us of. If there are additional speakers after 90 minutes, the board will continue with their business meeting and hold one additional 30-minute session at the end of the business meeting. The clock continues through applause and disruptions. The more disruptions there are, the fewer speakers who get to address the board. I will call each speaker up by name in the order that they signed up. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to address the board. The board does not respond to speakers during public address. The screens will show when the speaker has 30 seconds remaining and when time is up. Please state your name and the area of the county you live in. The first speaker is Sarah Nagel. Did I say that correctly? No, Sarah? Okay. Ms. Drake or Ms. Woods, could you tell me who the second one is? I don't have it up yet.
Gracie Walker.
Thank you. Go ahead. Just state your name and the area from the community that you're from.
Okay, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Gracie Walker, and I'm from Elliston.
Okay, you can go ahead and start talking.
So, my name is Gracie Walker. I go to Charlottesville Middle School, and I would like to talk to you about why Charlottesville Middle School should keep Mr. Keith, our principal. Mr. Keith has made a big impact in Charlottesville Middle School this past school year. He has made it so much more comfortable and I believe safer in our school. I think it's very impactful to have someone in our school that listens to you and also has a smile on their face when you walk into the building, because it's hard to learn in a school when you come to a frown face. But Mr. Keith has open arms, and I believe has a want to help every student in our school, which is, I believe, a teacher / principal should have the want to help everyone in our school, and has an equal, equitable stand in our school that is very impactful and I think very important for our school. And Mr. Keith has been very, very amazing to help our school be in a better place and be a better community and a better family like Shawsville Middle School has been in the past. And I think that Mr. Keith has brought that back to Shawsville Middle School and helped restore some of the great educational opportunities that a school should have. So thank you for letting me speak, and I hope that it was very helpful to hear from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Gracie. The next person to speak is Jackson Matherly or Emily Matherly. Are you guys speaking? Okay. And then after that is Joshua Holyfield.
I'm Jackson Matherly, and I'm from Eastmont. Good evening, Dr. Bragan and school board members. I'm Jackson Matherly, and I've attended Shawsville Middle School for the last 3 years. I was in Beta Club, a member of SCA, and a representative for our school in the Superintendent Student Advisory Committee. I will be moving to Eastern Montgomery High School next year, but I'm here on behalf of the future students of Shawsville Middle. I care about my community, the students, my friends and family, and the faculty and staff of our middle school. With that being said, I believe there's a change set in motion that will negatively affect the success of our middle school. Moving our principal for the 4th year in a row makes us feel as if we are the least concerned in the county and are being overlooked yet again. The inconsistency of our principal, vice principal, frankly, shows a lack of concern for our interest, and that's frustrating. Shawsville Middle School hasn't had the same principal for the last 3 years. When there's consistent change in leadership, it creates distrust and failures within school culture. It is evident that the school board understands the importance of consistency, as each of your elected terms last 4 years, knowing it takes time to represent and serve as a leader for your designated school area. Having a new principal every year is something that makes students and staff feel like they aren't being invested in. As a result, teachers leave and students' grades and academic success drop. I'm simply asking for the school board to invest in the students and staff of Shawsville Middle School by leaving Mr. Keith at SMS. A quote from Power School about consistency. A consistent learning environment allows students to thrive with time and space to focus on educational material. Mr. Keith is a recognizable leader throughout all 3 school systems in the Eastmont area. He does not only build relationships with his students, he builds relationships with the community. The CDC states that when students feel connectedness at school, they are less likely to experience poor mental health, substance abuse problems, violence, and be at sexual health risks. Mr. Keith has been an exceptional mentor and principal to myself and the students at Shawsville Middle. Mr. Keith shows students that he wants to help them thrive in education while also building lasting relationships with them. He respects the students for who they are and how they learn, and in return, he receives a powerful amount of respect from the students. He has remained consistent throughout the year in setting standards for behavior and academic achievement, and has been pivotal in building a better culture for learning at SMS. Not only does he show appreciation academically, he also shows support for everything from sporting events to band concerts. Mr. Keith has set a standard at our school and pushed each of us to exceed and raise the bar. Finally, I would like to say the Eastern Montgomery community appreciates that Dr. Bragan has taken the time to listen to our concerns and take them seriously. I ask on behalf of the Eastmont student body that you reconsider your vote to move Mr. Keith from our strand. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackson. Mr. Holyfield? And then Braden Kingery.
Joshua Holyfield. I'm a Roanoke County resident, but I'm a teacher at Shawsville Middle. I've been at Shawsville Middle School for 22 years. I absolutely love the environment. I love the school. Was a kid, I used to spend time in Elliston at Sunday's Garage and at Shawnee Log Homes, and it's been my home. It's a place I want to be. And I wrote to you guys as soon as I found out about the decision to move Mr. Keith from Charlottesville Middle School because, frankly, it scares me a little bit that someone who finds success in the building would be moved to somewhere else to fill a hole. And I think that's something that we don't want to make a trend, even in the county anywhere else. I don't think we want to move people from one building to another just because we find a hole. If someone's being successful in a building, they need to have the ability to stay there and to build consistent with their kids and the students that are in the building. Someone wrote me after I wrote my email to you guys, and it was another staff member who will remain nameless, but she says that Mr. Keith's going to be a success. He's going to be a star in this county. And I really do believe that, but I also think he can be a star at Charlottesville Middle School. I don't think he has to move to be a successful educator. I don't think he has to move to be a successful administrator. I think that he can learn from our administrative staff. I think he can learn from our teachers. And I think that he can be a very vital asset to our county, but he can do it at Charlottesville. I don't think he has to be somewhere else at a bigger school or at a place where, there's more students. I think he can be a vital and integral part in something that we can all be proud of in the Charlottesville Middle School building. So I hope that you guys will reconsider. I think Dr. Bragan has got a great recommendation to keep him in Charlottesville Middle School. And I hope you guys will reconsider the decision you made earlier and keep him at Charlottesville because, like I said, it's a special place. And I hope that you guys recognize that every place in this county is special. Charlottesville, Blacksburg, Auburn, and Christiansburg. And if someone wants to be in our building, I think it's a great place for him to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Braden Kingery and then Bob Beard. Is there Braden? No Braden? All right, Bob Beard and then Kelly Brennan.
Good evening, Bob Beard. I live here in Christiansburg. I want to first, I know there's a lot of things on the agenda tonight on this Christiansburg's budget. And I keep talking about the Salem High School. Here's a letter I got from Mandy Hall, the CFO. Talking about all the changes they made to their school. Their school built in 77, somewhere using the same architects and everything that Christiansburg used. They got 20 new classrooms, 60% new capacity. They moved buildings, got new construction, the whole 9 yards, and they did for $35 million. In your May meeting, you said you allocated a 6.5 point increase for because of inflation. So if they did for $35 million, 6.5% of that isn't $100 million to do that school. I mean, you guys are just you're strapping the county. You guys moved close to $5.8 million from carryover funds, state construction funds, over to the construction budget for Christiansburg High School. Why are we spending $100 million on one school? I don't get it. And and Sue mentioned last time, we got schools being underutilized. Let's redraw the lines. If we got capacity issues, we got a 2% drop in student enrollment, and yet we're going to spend all that money, $100 million, on a school that hasn't grown since it was constructed. All right, so now this is for Dr. Bragan. I listened to part of the May meeting. I want to say my hat's off to you for having your patience. I mean, that was just incredible to have that type of patience. So my hat's off to you. But I do want to say a couple other things. In your cover letter to Florida, you said within 60 days you had superintendent experience across 2 states, and that included Virginia. I don't quite understand how in 60 days you can claim that you have superintendent experience. Also in your cover letter, you said the core of our democracy is an educated populace. Well, that's a half-truth. That's a misinformation. It should read, the core of our republic is an educated populace. And so those are some things I wanted to talk about. But what I really want to talk about more than anything else is on 3/7, Sue Cass, Penny Franklin, and Mark Chewbacca all said they hired you to bring in a teachers union. I want to say congratulations. Now Montgomery County has a teacher union and the only one west of Richmond. So my hat's off to you for getting that job done, doing what they asked you to do. And that's all I have for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Beard. Next is Kelly Brennan.
Good evening. I am Kelly Brennan from Reiner. At the last work session 3 weeks ago, there was Clearly some miscommunication, misunderstanding, and mistrust on display in discussions of elimination of some administrative positions and notification of affected personnel. I sure hope these issues have been resolved. The big question I am left with after viewing the personnel report is, are we backing away from the strategic plan, which, as you know, addresses issues of equity, poverty, mental health, and other issues? Particularly, are we shying away from professional development, student behavior supports, and interventions in family engagement around these issues? I sure hope the answer is no. Indeed, we continue to hear stories from students, parents, and staff about continuing bullying and harassment based on race and gender identity. We clearly have some problems and need to continue full ahead in addressing them. So if we are not backtracking from the strategic plan in principle, are we doing so in practice? Inasmuch as who will now carry the load of these eliminated positions? Do they have the experience, authority, and expertise to do so? And do they have the resources and the time to perform these jobs? Seems to me everybody in this organization is maxed out on that front. As for this meeting, there is a lot going on with the agenda. In attempting to review the supporting materials, a few things get my attention. First, there is a lot of info here, and I presume that is in the interest of transparency, so kudos for that. Secondly, I've noted that in the past, some board members have commented on the difficulty of reading red line texts. You have provided both these red line versions and updated versions, so kudos for that as well. Moving on, where's the promised revisit of outsourced mental health resources on this agenda, a very crucial issue? Regarding policy 5-1.8, abuse of work environment prohibited, the main thing missing here is protocol for allegations of misconduct against the superintendent or a board member. In my view, all members of the MCPS team, employer and employees, should be subject to the same policies regarding personal conduct. Finally, we all know words and language matter, have the power to elevate or deflate, empower or disempower. I have noted that in a few of these policy revisions, principals and counselors are portrayed as he, when in fact I know very well several she principals and counselors, and acknowledge there could be potentially principals and counselors that use other pronouns. So the use of they in your text would be more encompassing. Details matter, biases matter, and language matters. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brennan. At this time, public address is closed.
I was having some trouble signing in. Okay.
Okay.
Tried to sign in a minute ago, there was no internet.
Okay. Yeah. Just go ahead and state your name, which you were going to do anyway.
Sure. Yeah, Sean Moore. I live here in Christiansburg.
Okay.
I was unaware tonight until about the changes at Shawsville Middle School, some of the students spoke about and with the principal. But it did kind of alert me that I would like to bring attention to what was discussed a few weeks ago about possibly eliminating the middle school and just kind of in the form of transparency with what Ms. Cass had suggested about exploring that idea of combining the elementary or the high school with the middle school. So I think that it's just a good opportunity to bring that out in the open again for people who weren't at the work session, that's maybe an exploratory discussion that you all might be having. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Okay, public address is now closed. The next item on our agenda is consent items. If no one wishes to move an item out of consent, we will consider these items approved. I'm not hearing or seeing any. The next item is our financial report. Do I have a motion to approve the payment of the bills as presented?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion, board? Okay, Ms. Drake, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Ms. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Ms. Cass? Ms. Parton?
Yes.
6 in favor.
The next item on our agenda is the business meeting, and I'll first turn it over to Dr. Brigham.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Couple things. The first thing I wanted to talk about was, as it was actually mentioned in public comment, about the provision of additional counseling services, and we talked about it at the work session, and we were going to try to put something together, and presented a proposal at the last meeting for ESS services. And a couple things were brought up, so I just wanted to make a few clarifications. One was that whether we were following the Virginia procurement regulations. And there are certain instances where sole source providers and a provision is allowed in the procurement rules and regulations for the Code of Virginia for us to do that. So we could have done that if the board chose to take action, and that was my continuous recommendation. However, I did listen to board members who said, hey, Dr. Brigham, why don't you take a look at what we have locally and see if some of those providers would be interested in providing those additional services. And, you know, I will be the first to admit when I make a mistake. The initial thought was that they didn't have the capacity to do that from some preliminary conversations that I had, but I didn't reach out to them directly. So we did have follow-up conversations, and after this meeting, we're going to put out an RFP for those counseling services, and we're encouraging our local providers to provide as well. And I'll bring that back to the school board, hopefully at the next board meeting, with a recommendation moving forward, because we do believe we can use the Esser's monies for that. And we also believe that there's a need that's present in our community to provide those additional services. So I think we're better when we have dialogue and discussion, and I thank the board for bringing that to my attention and forcing us to take another look at it, and we may get a better outcome and better services at a better price. So I want to just update the board on that initially. After that, we had a discussion. I mentioned it last meeting, and one of the board members, actually a few of them, said, hey, Dr. Brigham, why don't you talk about what it's been like for your first 6 months here, and what are your perspectives moving forward? So I put together a brief presentation, and hopefully you'll allow me the indulgence just to say a few words about it, and then I'll be happy to discuss anything afterwards. So after my short time here, there's a couple things that I noticed that I think are definitely worthy of pointing out to the community, because what happens, I believe, sometimes when this is where we're from, this is the only place that we've worked, this is the only place that we lived, we take a lot of things for granted, and we don't always see things with a fresh set of eyes. I came from a school division in New Jersey, central New Jersey, a fairly affluent community, and we had a pretty high-performing school system. And when I came here, there were some things that really stood out to me that you all do here much better than we did where I came from, and are something that you should be very proud of. The first thing is our staff members. We have some truly dedicated individuals that work in this division, across every community, across every school, across every job description, whether that's a bus driver, custodian, food service worker, administrator, principals, superintendents, maybe. That was a joke. But every time I talk to anyone about the Montgomery County Public Schools, people beam with pride, whether you're a student, whether you're a member here, whether you're an employee, whether you worked here 10 years, whether you worked here 40 years, whether you're retired, whether you have grandchildren here, great-grandchildren. It really is something for us to be really proud of. And we're well-staffed. Our schools have appropriate number of personnel to provide the services to our children, and they're adequately trained, and they're very professional and dedicated individuals. I've observed that, again, coming from the outside, looking at things with a different eye. That's something we should be very proud of. The next thing is the community. This truly is a community. While we have 4 very distinctive towns and communities and strands at times, at the end of the day, we're all committed to Montgomery County Public Schools, and I'm really proud of that. When we have events and we have functions that we try to engage the community and get their input, or just be a part of it, or a celebration. I went to some of the promotion ceremonies and the graduations, and to see the communities come together in support of the students, it's something that you all should be very proud of, because that doesn't happen everywhere. The next up is our facilities. Our facilities are truly second to none. Even some of our buildings that are significantly older than the other ones, they're well maintained. The learning environments are appropriate, conducive, for high-level learning for teachers and students. It's something that we should be proud of. And I think the Board of Supervisors and this school board and previous school boards, their dedication to making sure that we had that capital investment, it manifests in the buildings and the environments we have for our children. You all should be very proud of that. Again, I came from a fairly affluent community, and I joked about it, I think, when Ms. Cass was driving me around for the interview. I want to take these pictures and send them back to where I'm coming from, because our teachers would be very jealous of the facilities that we have here. So again, it speaks to a commitment, and that's a capital investment. You know, Ms. Franklin and I had a brief discussion at the meeting in Charlottesville about the historical perspective of the commitment of the Board of Supervisors for capital improvements in the schools, and it shows. It shows in the building and the environments that we have for our children. We should be very proud of that. Our student achievement, almost on every metric, we're above the state average. And that's just not in SAT scores or SOLs and other important metrics, but that's also in CTE scores and performance for children that are getting training in vocational and career fields, as opposed to going on to 2-year, 4-year education, higher education. Something to be proud of. Again, that doesn't happen by accident. That happens from committed people who make the investments in the community, in the schools, and dedicated individuals that are bringing that commitment to life every day for our students. Again, something to be extremely proud of, I believe. And we don't just focus on achievement. There's a commitment in this county to educate the entire child, whether that's through athletics, that's through fine and performing arts, robotics, and every other thing that we offer our children, because we, and I believe it as well, it's not all about test scores. When we're educating the child, we're educating the whole child, and sometimes people think those extracurriculars are really just ancillary services that we add on the side. No, they're part of everything. They're part of our development as human beings, and what we do here as a school system is we attempt to develop human capital, and I'm really proud of what we do, and we do it across so many different domains. And again, maybe when you're here and you've been here for a while, you don't always see it in that perspective. So I thought that was worthy of pointing out. That being said, are there some areas where we can grow and get better? There are. And the first one I would put up is instruction. We have great instruction across the division, and we want to make sure that high caliber access to the most highest performing classes is equal, that all students have access to the same high caliber instruction, and that we could hope that all of our students can achieve at those higher levels. That's an aspirational goal that's really hard to do no matter where you are. But again, I think that's something we could commit to and move forward and try to work towards that. The other thing is staffing. Like I said in the beginning, one of our greatest assets is the people that work in all of our 20 buildings. And we have great staff, we have great personnel. We got to continue to try to get that. When short time ago, maybe 10 years ago, in New Jersey, and I'm sure it was down here, we advertised for a kindergarten position. We'd have hundreds of applicants for those jobs. Right now, education isn't viewed as that enviable field that people want to get into. It's harder to find people. We have to do harder things to recruit, and then we have to work harder to make sure we retain our staff. And all those things are really important, but they're challenges as we move forward to make sure that we can fill our vacancies with the highest caliber individuals, maintain the high-performing personnel we have, and make sure that we're able to provide the appropriate training so they can meet all of our students' needs. So I think that's an area we need to continue to focus on and grow in the future. Looking to the future, I think there's a lot of things that are happening here in the Montgomery County Public Schools that we can be proud of and continue to move forward with and grow. And just some of them are the robotics program. I was fortunate enough to attend the competition we had at Blacksburg High School. I want to say that was February or March, I don't remember. But it was so exciting for me to watch what our kids could do. And it wasn't just that they were really high performing and they came in first or second. I don't even remember what the competition, they did really well. It's that they worked together. It's that they had this esprit de corps that's been created here over time. And what was really exciting for me was there were some lesser teams that were just starting out. And our team, the Montgomery County Public Schools team, took them under their wing to show them, how do you do this? How do we do these competitions? What happens when your machine breaks down? They shared parts with them, things like that. Esports is something that's a really growing field, and when you look at it, if you're not aware of it, it just seems like, it's just children playing games. It's much more than that. And there's career and technical education that becomes a part of that. I'd like us to continue to look at that and growing. And just some of our other academic research projects and things that we do. I want to continue to look forward to having more opportunities. And for me, one of the most important things is is just to listen. My mom always told me you got 2 ears and 1 mouth, and you should use them in proportion for a reason. And she's right. So I've tried to set up systems of dialogue that are happening on a somewhat regular basis where we get feedback from our community members. We need to continue to do that. And you have my commitment that I will personally continue to do that because I think it's important, especially coming from the outside and, not knowing our culture or community. It's been a great experience for me to learn about everything that we do here in this county, but also to hear people. I've said this numerous times. I'm the superintendent. When I walk into a building, I often get the show, right? Everybody wants to look good and, everything looks peachy and squeaky clean at times. Sometimes the best way to get information is for people just to reach out to me, have a conversation, shoot me an email. Hey, stop by, let's get a coffee. Or I'm going to have these scheduled events and we'll come by. Those meetings down in Charlottesville were really powerful for me because I was proud of our community and how they came out and spoke and were passionate about what they believed in. I support that. And, to quote Mr. Beard, I do believe in the republic, not the democracy, because we do live in a federal republic. So I appreciate you correcting me on that as well. Anyway, listening is what it's all about. And I do believe we're better collectively than we are individually. I'm going to continue to do that. I'm proud to be the superintendent of the schools. And after 6 months, these are my thoughts.
Thank you so much. Board, do you have any questions for Dr. Bregan? Comments?
Well, I'll just make a comment that I agree with what you said 100%. Schools are important, our buildings are important, and I get asked every day when CHS is going to start their renovation. And so it is important to this community to have it happen. And they're looking forward to it. They've been waiting on it. And extracurricular activities are important for children. It makes them want to go to school. So I just wanted to say, hear, hear to what you said.
I'll just tack on to that and say, I do remember driving Dr. Bregan around for his interview and him just saying, oh my gosh, look at these places. This is beautiful. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. People back home would love to have a place like this. And I think sometimes we do, in our desire to constantly improve, we sometimes forget what we have. And I don't mean just in our facilities, but in our staff, and our teachers, and our parents, and our communities. And as an HR manager, I also have to recruit people to come and live in our community. And one of the biggest selling points that I can come up with is the fact that we have a great school system. And that's often what a lot of people who are interviewing for jobs with me are looking for, a place where they can bring their children, their families, and it be safe and supportive and provide a good education to their children. And I think we often, we may not seem like we agree on things sometimes, and we get a little testy, but I do think that at the end of the day, we all do realize what a great school system that we have. I'm proud to have been a teacher in the school system and to have been on the school board, be a community member. So I think we all need to sometimes step back and realize, yeah, there's things we need to fix, but we've got a lot of really good stuff here.
I'm just going to point out, Sue, I agree with you.
Yay!
I know we don't always agree, but I agree with you on that. Dr. Bregan, from me personally, thank you for all you've done. You've had a lot on you. You've had a lot of stress. You've had a lot to consider and things to look at, and I know it hasn't been easy. So I commend you for the job that you've done, and I look forward to working with you in the future as a board member. And I really want to say that I appreciate you, and I think I can speak for the community as well as parents and students. A lot of the time, most of the time, people just want to feel like they're heard. And I think over the years, possibly, not because of anyone's negligence or due diligence, but I think sometimes people feel like they've been forgotten. And I think sometimes they feel like they've been forgotten by the board because during certain times we've just had so much going on, it's been hard to reach out to everyone. But I want to commend you for taking time out of your schedule to talk to parents, talk to community members, and talk to students, and talk to us, and let us know where your thoughts are and being willing to compromise and get everyone's thoughts and feelings on certain matters that just because it may be important to this person, it may not be important to that person. But you're willing to listen to what's important to everyone and wanting everyone to feel like they have a voice and are heard. So I just want to say kudos to you for that and thank you. And we have an awesome school system. We do. I'm going to say it again. Every time we go to conferences, I have people from all over the United States, do we not? We have met school boards from all over the United States, and they have always been highly impressed with Montgomery County Public Schools. So thank you again for all you do and for what you're going to do in the future. So thank you.
I'll pile on here as well. I agree with everything that's been said. Definitely love the presentation. Appreciate all the effort that went into that. And I'll just say how refreshing it is to have a superintendent willing to go out in the community to do all the coffee sessions you've been doing, you making yourself available to the community. I've seen many emails come through from parents, and the first thing you say is, "Hey, can we schedule a meeting and talk about it?" Right? So you're not just kind of checking the box. You want to learn more. You want to understand that stuff, and it's not just lip service, right? You're actually taking that stuff to heart, and in some cases, changing your mind because of that feedback that you're getting, right? So that's outstanding. That's why I was excited to have you come here and join us, and I'm excited for the next however many years in the future you're going to be here with us. So I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Is that on now? I can't remember. Okay, so, yeah, we do have an amazing school system. And just because of where we're at, it frames our buildings to make them look so much more special. You can't do much better than putting them up against mountains. I love the mountains. So I love the piece about growth because we didn't always look like this. And it was because there's a commitment to making sure we have and are doing the best we can for our students and for our takes a commitment from everybody, every citizen in Montgomery County, to put forth the best effort they can to help support the school system to make sure we can be the best that we can be. And we are the best that we can be today, but we will get better tomorrow because that's just how you do it.
Thank you, Dr. Bragan, for everything you've done thus far. The next item on our agenda is our federal programs grant. This includes Title I, II, III, and IV. These were brought to the board for review on May the 16th. They are brought back for approval this evening. Do I have a motion?
Do we have to do each separately, or
No,
can we do
we can do all at
four?
one time.
Okay, I move that we approve all 4 federal program grants.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on this? Okay. Ms. Drake, could you call the roll, please?
Ms. Bond? Ms. Franklin? Yes. Ms. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Ms. Cass?
Yes.
Ms. Parton?
Yes.
6 in favor.
Thank you. Motion carries. Our next item is the grant proposal for the Boys and Girls Club. This is for CMS and SMS. Do I have a motion to approve the grant proposal as presented?
So moved.
Second?
Ms. Drake, could you call roll?
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
Thank you, has been to this county. I remember when it first came, and it has just grown and grown and grown, and I really appreciate all the support and dedication.
Ms. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Ms. Cass?
Yes.
Ms. Parton?
Yes, and I would like to add, I'm sorry if you don't mind, I'm going to piggyback on Ms. Franklin. Just thank you to the Boys and Girls Club, and what a tremendous help you've been to not only just the community, but the parents as well, as far as the care and the help with the school. So thank you so much for that.
6 in favor.
Motion carries. Our next item on the agenda is the grant proposal for the Harding Avenue dishwasher. Do I have a, excuse me, a motion to approve the grant proposal as presented?
I'm assuming that's not a person, it's a thing.
It's a dishwasher.
So moved.
So do we have a motion?
I'll second. Linwood motioned also.
Okay, thank you. I didn't hear him, sorry. Any discussion on that? It is an appliance. Ms. Drake, can you call roll, please?
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Ms. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Ms. Cass?
Yes.
Ms. Parton?
Yes.
6 in favor.
Motion carries. Our next grant proposal is expanding the welding at the Governor's STEM Academy. Do I have a motion to approve the grant proposal as presented?
So moved. Excited.
Ms. Drake, can you please call roll?
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin? Ms. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Ms. Cass?
Yes.
Ms. Parton?
Yes.
6 in favor.
Motion carries. And the next item on our agenda is the budget update. Ms. Whitaker, Dr. Whitaker, sorry, will come speak to us about this.
Good evening. I want to start, I have several folders because, I've got a lot of presentations tonight. But I did not want to forget to first introduce you to our new school nutrition supervisor who's with us this evening. Ms. Knott is with us. This is Michelle Knott. And I did not want to forget to introduce Knotts, not Knott. We've got a Knott and a Knotts now, so I've got to remember who has an S. But I just wanted to introduce you all to Ms. Knotts this evening.
Welcome.
All right. So as you know, we presented to you at the last meeting the budget that was proposed for this year, and the board had requested some additional information be provided to them. And so we've included in the presentation tonight the additional information that was requested by the board. And so what you see before you here is the operating budget that we proposed at our last meeting for you. This is the same slide that you saw at that time. And the budget that we're putting forward tonight is $134,940,673. You had asked to see the snippet of the pay scale that we had shown to the board in the past. And so what you see here is our TO scale. So that's the teacher scale, which is the bachelor scale. There are many different scales, but this is the teacher scale at the TOs. And so what you can see there is the comparison between the current year's salaries and then next year's salaries that we've recommended to you. It's no problem. The next slide is a slide from the first presentation, which shows an overview of our health insurance summary. It is updated to the 4/31 date. We take our claims in each month since we're self-insured, and so what this shows is the balance in that self-insured fund. You're able to see that over the last few years, that balance in that fund has gone down, which is why we recommended to the board that we work to put additional funding into our self-insured account. You also asked for a little bit more information about how those numbers broke down. And so what you see at the top here, the $2.6 million was the additional plan, the original plan that we had in place to really put some additional funds into our self-insurance account. And so originally, we had said a little over $2.6 million was what the total amount we wanted for those accounts. And so what I'm going to do, those brackets show a negative in accounting. And so there's $300,000 less, and that is simply less money that we are going to put into that self-insurance fund. Then we anticipate the funds that we have at the end of the year, which should be about $1 million, that would be available for us to put into the health insurance fund at the end of this year. We won't know that exact dollar amount until we close out all of the open purchase orders in June and get to the end of the month. But this is what we anticipate at the end of this year we would be able to put into that self-insurance fund. And then, as you know, we shared with you that there would be an increase of the premium passed to the employee, and that's $300,000 as well, a 13% increase. And so when you look at these, we wanted to show you plan by plan. We have 3 different plan options in Montgomery County. The top plan here is the HDHP, so that's the high deductible health plan. And so for each of those, we wanted to show you the dollar amount to the employee that increase would mean. And the second table is our HMO plan, and then the third table is the PPO plan. They're all set in the same way for you, but we can look at that. We'll look at the top one. So you see the employee-only plan is 0 increase. That is our plan that will not go up. Employee plus children would be that 13% is $15.12 a month. Our employees do get paid monthly, and so their premiums are paid on a monthly basis. I won't read all of those numbers to you, but that shows you what that would look like per employee. Dr. Bragan, did you want to talk about what we wanted to do there?
Sure. Obviously, we don't want to try to have any of the cost to our employees go up if there's any way to avoid that, right? So with the reduction we had in the budget, as Dr. Whitaker had said, we were looking at a $2.6 million to make sure we had the appropriate funding for the self-insured medical and prescription account. And, when we had to look for cuts and how could we find that money otherwise, Dr. Whitaker already spoke about how to change that. So one of the things that we're looking at and we're actively pursuing in the process of doing it right now is carving out the prescription from our current provider. And in doing that, the preliminary data that we have, it's going to save a significant amount of money, significant amount. And if those numbers come in anywhere near what we're being told they will be, we're going to give that savings back to the employees. Now, we can't say that or do that now because we don't have that in hand. So if we're going with what the numbers we have now in the budget that hopefully we can approve this evening, it would necessitate that 13% on average increase in cost for our employees, depending on which plan you're on. It's 13% across the board, but the numbers are higher, obviously, if you have the family plans and the different plans other than the high deductible. We believe if we carve out our prescription, and just in the preliminary discussions we had with a few people that are interested in getting that business, keep the same plans, keep the same co-pays and all that for prescriptions, allow access to the same medications that our employees and their families use now, the significant savings would be able to put this 13% increase to 0. That's our goal. And if we do that, we'll be able to accomplish 2 things. Reduce the increase to our employees and put more of those savings into the self-insured fund now that's been depleted because we've been spending more with our claims than we budgeted for over the last year. We're really hopeful. I'm fairly confident that we could do that, but we don't have that in our hands yet. So our insurance, I don't know if everybody knows this, it's different for me coming from New Jersey, renews October 1. So these increases would be effective as of October 1. Hopefully we could have that change in place before then, so they won't be realized by our employees.
The next slide shows you the deductible changes. And so you see here as well that there would be increases in our deductibles, $250 for the employee-only plans, $500 for the employee plus plans, and then $500 for the employee-only out-of-pocket maximum increase, and $1,000 for the employee plus. As Dr. Bragan shared, we are working diligently with some RFPs that we are working on at this time so that we can try and get some more competitive rates. And if that were to occur, we would be able to look at these numbers as well, with the goal not passing these changes to employees.
And would you remind the public that MCPS funds the deductible, please?
Yes, we do. Well, it depends which plan you're on.
Right.
Right, but for that high deductible health plan, yes, that amount is provided to the employee on their HSA card. And what we see from that, in my opinion, is that that is working because we have a large number of employees on the HSA plan. If you're not familiar with, or the HDHP, Katie was probably going to get me back there. There you go. The HDHP is the plan. The HSA is the savings account that the money goes into. And the goal of those type of insurance plans is to really think through, to be a consumer. So today I was at a doctor and they said, you need an MRI. Where do you want to go? And I said, I want to go to the cheapest place. And I knew it was a place, a certain place, and they told me to go to that place. It might take me a little bit longer to drive there, 15 minutes. But for me, if it's going to be half the cost, I know how much money is on my card. I'd rather go there, drive 15 minutes, and have that money left on my card. And so I do think that when we see the numbers of people on that plan, that we're doing a good job, but we can always do better. So another component will be also to educate our employees about the plans as well. And so this last slide shows for you again that school operating budget for your approval. The next slides go into the school nutrition budget, but I didn't know if you had any questions you wanted to ask before I move forward, or if you'd like me to go to the next slides.
I think we'd like to have discussion so that we can go ahead and vote on this before we move to the next one.
Absolutely.
Okay, so the reason why our self-insured plan has not funded at the level it should be is because funds weren't allocated by the previous administration to make sure we kept things at the level they should be, to make sure we could cover our employees' health care. And I don't think that it is fair for us to put increases on our employees, because one of the big draws for Montgomery County is because of our health care plan. That doesn't pull money out of our employees' pockets. So I just think that's not fair.
Anybody else?
Yeah, these increases are pretty disappointing. Not only the increases in costs, but also the deductible increases. Dr. Bragan, what are, I mean, I know you don't have a magic.
Yeah. We're in the process right now of an RFP.
What are the chances of being able to do what you talked about?
If I was a betting man, and I am on occasion, I would say 85%. We can reduce these to zero. We've had conversations about carving out the prescription with a number of different carriers. We started asking for that information. Our current provider all of a sudden got interested, and just if we stayed with them, would save us enough money in order to do this as well. So, again, the importance is we need to vote on something now,
Right.
because we have to get the contracts out and get our employees. And, I heard the news this evening that the legislator, they're not even coming back into session until July. So there's not going to be any relief for the calc error or any of that stuff. It's not happening, at least in the short term. So I don't think we can count on that. But I really am extremely confident that we will be able to get those changes and be able to mitigate this impact before October 1st.
And if we are able to do that, what would be the result?
Zero increase for the employees.
To go back to what it was then?
Correct.
Okay.
Anybody else? Do I have a motion to approve the 2023-2024 operating budget as presented?
Make a motion.
Ms. Drake, can you please call roll?
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
No.
Ms. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Ms. Cass?
Yes.
Ms. Spartan?
Yes.
My apologies. 5 in favor, 1 opposed.
Motion carries. Dr. Whitaker, you can proceed with the S&P budget. Thank you.
Thank you, and you guys were so fast. Thank you for that. So before you now, you see our school nutrition budget for approval. And so, we shared with you last time that this had an increase on our lunch prices of 10 cents, our full adult price of 25 cents, and the milk increase of 25 cents.
That's really not horrible given the price of groceries right now.
I've heard Dr. Bragan say many times, there are a few places that you can go and get a meal for $3, and I would agree with that. I had an amazing meal tonight that was
Yes.
made by TNG, and I really enjoyed that, so.
Yeah, and just to follow up on what Dr. Whitaker is saying, a lot of times if we are here early for a closed session, the TNG group will actually provide us dinner, and it is usually spectacular every single time. So anyway, any discussion on the S&P budget?
Well, it may, seem to some people that that's not a lot, but if you have 2 or 3, 4 kids in the school system, it can get pricey. But the food that we have been that TNG has been producing is well worth the money.
One thing we will really try to do this year as well is to be more public. We try really hard to get people to complete those free and reduced applications. And that is a major step in making sure that our children are not hungry and making sure that people realize that that program is there and available for you and that there's nothing wrong with being enrolled in the school nutrition program. And so we will try from our end to increase the enrollment in that program so that we make sure that, families are aware of what is available for them.
And I know over the years, we have really tried to try different methods to make sure that happens. So
We
I
have
appreciate
been, we have
it.
been every year trying,
Yeah.
we'll try again. Some folks will not fill it out, so I think people sharing that, this is a good thing to do is a beneficial thing, but we will continue to try those efforts.
It benefits everybody.
It does.
When they fill it out.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, concerns? Okay, do I have a motion to approve the 2023-2024 school nutrition budget as presented?
Make a motion.
Second.
Ms. Drake, can you please call roll?
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Ms. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Ms. Cass?
Yes.
Ms. Parton?
Yes.
6 in favor.
And now the pay plan?
Yes.
Is there anything you wanted to talk about with that?
You have in front of you the pay plan. Just as I shared at the last meeting, it is much larger than what you've seen in the past. And there was an absolute goal this year to make sure that all of the steps were seen. That's why it is so long, because that's how many scales we have. And so that's the difference between what you had seen previously and what you are seeing now, is this does provide the pay scale for every single employee, regardless of how many. Some work 3 hours, some work 6, some work 7. Each of those is a different pay scale.
And thank you for putting those side by side.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Does anyone have any questions about the pay plan? Or the scales? Whatever we want to call it. Do I have a motion to approve the 2023-2024 pay plan as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Drake, will you call roll, please? Oh, sorry.
I got you.
I'm not going to be voting for the budget or this pay scale because I don't believe that it reflects what we should be paying our staff and our teachers and administrators.
Okay, anybody else? All right, we have a motion and a second on the table. Ms. Drake, will you please call roll?
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
No.
Ms. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Ms. Cass?
Yes.
Ms. Parton?
Yes.
5 in favor, 1 opposed.
Motion carries. And Dr. Whitaker, it's yours again with the presentation for the CHS update.
Thank you. I'd like to ask Josh Bauer to come up. We are, let me tell you, so excited to share with you tonight. So we're going to start with a presentation that's going to fly you through the building, and then we will follow up with some timelines and things. Josh, did you want to say anything before we started the video?
I just want to thank you all. We will talk about a little bit about the schedule tonight. And we can do a narrated video, or we can simply just play it and let everybody just enjoy the walkthrough. Which would you like to do?
What was the first choice?
To narrate the videos or walking through, or do you just want to play it so that we can see it?
I think it'd be good.
Just play it.
Okay, then you might have to do it again so we know what you're talking about.
Right. So it's about 6 minutes. So it's but don't miss the ending. Okay. So.
How about I'll stay and do a mini navigation? Does that work? Yeah. So it's easier to see.
You can see pretty good on here, on the big screen. The big screen in front of you, you can see it. A little better than on up there. It's hard to see those right now, yeah.
Okay, so we're going to start off in the front of the building, and what we're going to do is we're going to enter into the secure vestibule. So in this space, we're going to look to the right and see the reception area. So where folks are going to enter in, and then we're going to head right down Main Street. Okay, so now we're going to walk down Main Street. To the right is the SRO office, and to our left is going to be the dining room for the cafeteria. So we're fitting about 400 students in one seating capacity. look up to the right there's a window. See it on the right-hand side that we're walking towards? Remember that window. So one thing that you'll notice is, again, the lots of light, natural daylight coming in. You can see a nice high volume space. Now as we're coming around the campus, and you can see that front curtain wall, they'll be looking out towards the outdoor dining space. One thing I do want to point out is you'll notice the glass that's up high, that's on the second floor. When we get up to there, we're going to look back down from the upper floor down into the dining space. Straight ahead would be your math classrooms going down that corridor, along with your toilet rooms and your nurse on the right-hand side. So we're going to walk down. On the right is a small courtyard, and what we're going to do is spin around and look back up the stairs to go to the second floor. And now we're going to head over to CI. This is one of the real gems of the school, is how we've been able to really integrate CI into the main lobby, making it much more pronounced, and really give an entire quarter for additional show off outside of what's happening inside of the display cases that are here in the main corridor. Okay, so now we're walking down towards the auditorium lobby. Auditorium is on the right-hand side. One thing I would do note, did you notice the signage? So with all the signage in the building, we're doing a historical photograph along with that kind of celebrates some of the history of the school. So this is actually the existing concrete stairs that lead you up to the locker area. So if you've been in the building, so we kind of have those concrete stairs. This is that exact same space. We're going to spin around and we're going to high five the student that's standing right at the landing on the way up. Mm-hmm. Student looks very happy as we're gonna high five him on the way up, and just kind of spin around. So anytime that we had an opportunity to celebrate that this is Christiansburg High School, we took that opportunity. And now we're gonna head up to the gymnasium lobby. So this is your main gym lobby and auxiliary gym lobby. You see display cases, opportunities to really celebrate student accomplishments, along with the school store and the concessions will all be in the space. Now we're going to head into the main gym. Renovations in the main gym are going to include new flooring, new bleachers, paint, lighting. And if you've been in the gym, we're going to take that HVAC unit that's so noisy you can barely hear it. We're going to take it up on the roof so you can actually hear the announcer make announcements, which is going to be fantastic. Now we're going to head into the auxiliary gym. So a full basketball-sized court. Volleyball along with bleachers. So again, and what you'll see is the connection between the main gym and the auxiliary gym for events, for wrestling events and volleyball and basketball. Lots of natural daylight coming into the space. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go head to the right and we're going to look back and see that window. Remember the window in the cafeteria? That's that window. So anywhere we can do a connection between spaces, then you can see you look down into that dining space. Now we're going to go past concessions, and the concessions are actually flipped with the student store. Again, the Shadaloo gym lobby. Now we're going to do some running. Now we're going to run over to the, because we only have so much time. Now we're going to run, come on, you can do it, over to the lobby for the auditorium on the second floor. And 3, 2, 1. Okay. So now this is a collaborative learning space. So on your left-hand side, we're going to pause here and take a pan to your left. So this is the second floor of the auditorium. So this is a collaborative learning space for student groups to get together. And on the right-hand side now, as we walk down the corridor, you can now see down into the dining room from the upper level. I'm going to head right into the media center. Again, some things that you'll notice in the media center is low bookshelves, so even I can reach the top of them. And see over top. And you see lots of natural daylight coming into the space. And again, this is a little bit different than your current media center that you have in the building. So now you can see different collaborative learning spaces inside, because media center, which is a library, is utilized much different today for students than it was when we were students. I'm going to go past the circ desk and head back out to the main corridor. Going to head out and look at my favorite thing, which is the potties, which we see. So you can see again, these are the design of the toilet rooms are all open plan. for visibility. It's, our goal is, again, just to reduce bullying and some of the misbehavior that can sometimes happen. And then we're going to just walk down and we're going to go into a typical classroom. Again, you can see that the signage on the left-hand side. Opportunities where we have some in the corridors where we can put some seats for the students and also recharge stations for their devices. And this is a typical classroom. Our goal was to try to get as many classrooms to have natural daylight as possible. And with a very few that do not have daylight, we've been able to achieve that as part of this design. Lots of technology in the wall, fixed casework. And again, we're gonna do some running. We're gonna head back out to the media center on your left. We're gonna head back downstairs. I've played this once or twice before, so I kind of know the route that we're going. So back down to the cafeteria. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna head down Main Street. We're gonna head outside. Can you see that small outdoor dining space? See that the curtain wall for the dining room. Nice separation between the bus and the car drop off, which we'll talk about in a minute. And the video wraps up.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
Don't feel bad. We were in the middle of a meeting today and I just started clapping. I was just so excited and Josh looked at me and I said, this is just so exciting. I just have to clap because it's just, when you spend so much time on it, it becomes a part of you. And so it's just so exciting to see this, but I'm sure you have many questions. We can do the presentation first. That might answer some of your questions. And then if you can keep them until the end, because we might already address some of what you'd like to ask.
I first want to say, before you start the presentation, that I'm excited about not having classrooms and closets. And I'm excited that there's going to be natural light. And I'm excited that we will have classrooms now for our students. That school has been overcrowded for years. Not just a couple years, not just 5 years, but years. And the fact that a teacher has to teach a class on a cart, unacceptable, unacceptable. I'm actually worried that we don't have enough room for what we see coming down 114 in development. That worries me greatly because we saw what happened in Blacksburg. We're seeing it's evolving right now that we built that school too small. It's very concerning, but it looks amazing, amazing. Thank you.
Very beautiful, very beautiful. And I think you're right, because I don't think people realize that we've got 10,000 students in our system. I mean, I truly don't think our community always realize how many kids we educate every day. And that's a lot of kids. That's a whole lot of kids. And there's a lot of kids at Christiansburg High School, a lot of kids at Blacksburg. Auburn's growing. Eastern Montgomery's growing. I mean, our areas are growing. Nobody can find housing. Everybody wants to build here, to buy here. So it is growing, and it looks beautiful. Thank you. And when I said earlier, people truly do. I get asked 2 or 3 times a day, when are we going to start? When are we going to start? What's happening? Where is it going? People in our community want this. So thank you so much.
And I do want to add to what Ms. Bond stated. I've been told by some CHS administration and guidance counselors, my daughter's class was right under 300. The classes 2 and 3 and 4 years coming down the pike, we're talking about bigger by almost 100 or more students. So in 3 years, they said there's going to be probably a 700, almost 600 to 700 student class at CHS. We need to be prepared. So our community's growing, it's going to continue to grow, and we're taking a step in the right direction, and hopefully we can make this last as long as we possibly can. So thank you.
Okay. Well, great. Well, thank you all. We are going to try to keep this relatively brief. So we're going to just talk a little bit about the exterior elevations. We're going to go over the site plan as it currently stands. Review the floor plans. We're talking about project phasing, and then where we are in the schedule right now. Okay, so this is the elevation. So our back would be to North Franklin. and our left would be to Independence. A couple things that are noteworthy on the exterior veneer is that we are looking to use brick. Okay, so brick, on most of the veneer and metal panel are going to be really kind of the two materials that we're looking at. So some challenges is the brick that was done in 1972 isn't really quite available today. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a little bit of a change in color. Where you can see the darker gray brick is going to be kind of the separator. So we have the existing brick, and then the darker gray brick, and then we have another brick which is the lighter tan color, which would be complementary to our main color. But one thing that we found is that when you try to get a close color, it looks like you missed. So we actually have a separation on there, and that's on both sides of the building. Again, lots of natural daylight in the space. As we come down a little bit, you can start to see this is the addition. So this is going to be phase one of the design. We do have select metal panel, which is an insulated metal panel material, and that's both the silver color and then also the dark blue as we get to the front entrance. So here now you can see with our back to Independence, and this is the entire elevation, which is going to be the addition. So going from left to right, is going to be your on the upper level is your auxiliary gym, and below that is your kitchen for your cafeteria. Then the glass is your cafeteria. You can see the front entrance, which is right to your right of the American flag. So again, that's going to be admin, your front entrance, and then on the upper level is going to be student services and the media center. And then to the right of that is the classroom addition. Classrooms will be 11 classrooms on the first floor and on the second floor. So we're adding 22 classrooms to the building. So now as we get a little bit closer, we're actually standing in the bus loop. And one thing that I will point out is that we have a clear separation between the car and the bus drop off. We've also made a goal, and we'll talk about the site plan, is to make it as much of a separation as possible, so that with the parent drop off at the end of the day when we're completed with the project, that the parents can flow out and the buses can also do that. So let's talk about temporary. So we've already started. So we did some work over the winter break. And that was working on which is a plan left, which is a temporary bus parking. We appreciate everybody's effort, including the contractors, to kind of get that ready to go so that it was safe. The student parking area is outside of 30 parking spaces would be able to maintain. And then we have the temporary bus loop around the perimeter. That will be there roughly until the end of 24. So December 24 is when we're looking to complete the addition. And the addition and the front entrance will all be completed at that time, in which case now we'll go back to base business where we have the car and the bus drop off. One thing that has changed, and we'll talk about phase 0 in a minute, is where the car drop off is. So we've run a dozen different scenarios, and we think we are happy with this scenario. So what we're going to be doing is off of Independence is having a car loop which will go up and go around the back of the building. And what we're going to be doing is dropping off the students really at the, I don't know if you can see, but the student drop off, we're going to basically have 2 points on the back of the building. So you'll come off of Independence, come around this loop, go around the parking area, and then we have 2 points of drop off. One is going to be for stairs, and the other one is going to be for students who may not be able to manage the stairs. So there'll be 2 points of accessible drop off. And what this does for us is putting it back there is that means we're not going to spend additional dollars this summer on doing phase 0 work and modifying one of the CTE labs to be able to gain access. So we believe this was a very positive, it was a time and a dollar savings to be able to make that change. The goal is that all of this is going to be when the students come back, in August, that all of this is going to be in place. Because what we found is not awesome is when you do a change, whether it's a bus loop, the bus change, or the student change entrances. It's not awesome to do it mid-year. So the goal that we have is to do all of this so that when everybody comes back in August, this is already going to be in place.
I do want to stop real quick. Can you guys hear him from the mic back there? I just want to make sure at home they're being able to pick that up. One other thing that I think that this change does as well is previously we were going to have students coming through a classroom. And so we were building a temporary wall, if you remember, through auto mechanics. And this will keep that from having to happen. And I think that'll be a benefit to the students and teacher in that class. But as Josh said, it also is a money savings for us.
Okay, so let's talk about phase 0. We actually poor Dr. Whitaker has spent most of the day with me. So we had to actually kick off meeting today on phase 0. And so what's happening is with phase 1, okay, which is the beginning of the big project, is that we are going to be demolishing the existing administration and guidance area in order for us to be able to put the addition on Independence. So as we were looking at this, that would have been a move for administration, nurse, and guidance in most likely the October timeframe, which is again less than awesome. So what we did is we came up with a plan and said, hey, what if we did this work, where we moved them and created the temporary offices over the summer, and everybody can move prior to the beginning of the school year, so that when the students come in, the front entrance, is already established, the administration established, the nurse and the guidance when students come back. So we had a kickoff meeting today. The contractor is absolutely fantastic and super excited to get started with us on this. They're going to begin as early as next Monday with actually starting the demolition. And so the areas in pink, which are on the plan in front of you, are the areas that we're modifying. So we'll have a new front entrance to the building, as a new guidance and new nurse, which will all be temporary spaces for the next 16 months. And then once we get completed with the addition, all those folks are going to move into the addition, and then this will become different spaces. So looking at the site plan, this is the current version of the site plan. This has been approved by the town of Christiansburg, who has been fantastic working with us through this whole process. To the left is that bus loop and the bus drop-off. And what's important is that we're going to a Chevron-style parking. So that means that really does create the most amount of safety. In the morning, as buses come in a trickle, 2 or 3 buses at a time, they're going to come around the loop and drop off. Everyone enters at the same point. So bus drop-off, car drop-off, all students enter at one point in the building. That's at the front entrance. In the afternoon, the buses will come and park in the Chevron parking style, which is at the angle. All the students will enter onto the bus. When they say, hey, we're good to go, everybody's loaded, then they can leave. And so we found that to be the most safe environment for that. We also have the car drop-off. All the spaces that are located in the front of the building, which is on Independence, are going to be located plan right. And we are going to have roughly 40 spaces greater than we currently have, as far as the total number of spaces. And we are still maintaining the visitors parking, which are going to be in the front of the building. Because what's important from a safety and security, we're not going to get into a whole lot of detail on that, but what's important is that when the receptionist is able, a lot can be told from body language. When a car parked and a person is going from their car to the front entrance, the person who is the gatekeeper can see a lot through body language. We want to make sure that there's a lot of visibility on this. We were able to give a presentation just in the last couple of weeks to Blacksburg, Christiansburg Police Department, and to the county sheriff. I believe that we received glowing praise on the safety and security that we have implemented for this building. Again, while we don't want to go detail in the public, we received a lot of compliments on the level of security that we have designed for this. So the design of the building, not a lot has changed because we've really been developing this concept. So we'll talk about phasing, but the addition is going to have the new front entrance, is going to have the administration, which is all in that pink area, the administration and guidance, administration and nurse. We have 11 classrooms on the ground floor. As we go left in the purple, that is the dining room with the kitchen and then the weight room. We're also doing renovation to the auditorium, to the locker rooms and team rooms, and I know how much we love the column in the middle of the wrestling room, but we're going to go ahead and take that away. So that is good. That is one of the improvements that we're making. We're also looking to create the business labs for CTE. I'm glad Mr. Husband is here because the CTE program you have is absolutely fantastic, and I particularly love the development that you've had at Christiansburg High School on CTE, and I love the fact that we're growing the program. And we'll get into the programs in a second here, but so you have a real asset with Mr. Husband and all the leadership that he's been able to give in developing this program, especially at Christiansburg High School.
Josh, you might have to make the doors a little wider to get his head to it. No.
So the green is accessible education. They are super excited about the fact that it's going to be easier to get students in and out of the spaces. And then just above the auditorium is that kind of pinkish area. Again, we're focusing on performing arts. Again, there's another thing that you guys do fantastic here. So the performing arts spaces, your band, your choral, are all adjacent to the auditorium, which is making everybody very, very happy, along with having that outside access with coiling doors to be able to get the band instruments in and out of the space easier. As we go to the upper level, in the addition, the purple spaces are the second level or the second upper space of the cafeteria. Along with the media center. Your student services are in pink. One thing that's important is that we intentionally separated and have the student services and the administration on 2 different floors. I love administrators, I really do. Students can sometimes look at administrators as the punishment, where they look as your guidance counselors as the kind of comfort.
School counselors.
I'm sorry, school counselors as the comfort zone. So by having them on 2 different floors, it really encourages the students to be able to go to that space. But we have an intercommunicating stair between the 2 levels, which allows them to be able to go through there to still have that connection. But really, the students, when they're coming to the counseling area, to the comfort area, that is really kind of a different space. It is not necessarily where they're going to get, like I did, in trouble a lot. And then we're also looking at so the blue spaces are the English classrooms. They specifically asked to be by the media center. We were able to fulfill on that. And then as we go through we see the main gym and the auxiliary gym. Again, they're adjacent to one another with that physical connection, so that not only during phys ed and during the normal day, but then also for larger events that you have that physical connection between the 2 spaces. Wrapping around in the dark blue is your world language classrooms. The green is your science labs. And one of the things that we're really, really pleased is we've been able to exceed VDOE's requirements as far as the size for the science labs. Again, you have a great science program and have chemistry and bio and all those spaces and have them directly adjacent to one another. There are some of the few classrooms that do not have direct daylight, which is not awesome. So here's what we're doing, is that we have something called solar tubes. And what they are is they're tubes that go up through the roof construction and allow natural daylight to come into the space. So really, our goal of having natural daylight in the spaces is really fulfilled, because even though they don't have a window, they still have natural daylight coming into the space. Then it's also controllable. So what's awesome is they can go over and push a button, and if they want to make the room dark, they can actually have a flange that actually closes those off. It's not just harsh daylight from a skylight. And then finally, we have the CTE spaces. The program is absolutely expanding. It's absolutely growing. And some of the really great spaces are the culinary arts, where we now have 2 classrooms because you have such a long waiting list. We're doubling the size of the food lab. Same thing with cosmetology. Again, you have such a long waiting list. We actually have 2 classrooms, not 1 classroom adjacent to the space. I applaud everything that's happening, because all we're seeing is just the excitement and the expansion of the CTE. Every single CTE lab is getting some benefit during in the course of this project. So potties, I'll be brief. So again, the toilet rooms, we are showing that the toilet rooms for the student use are all going to be open plan. And the goal of the open plan is to reduce bullying. It is also to reduce some of the misbehavior for this tearing soap dispensers off. And I know it doesn't happen a lot here. In my school division, it happens a lot. And so the goal here is to make it friendly, because sometimes the bathroom is the most highest level of anxiety a student has. They don't want to go to the restroom because of some of the nonsense that happens in there. So what we're doing here is that when you're doing your most private activity, is the stalls go floor to ceiling, and they are completely private while you're doing your most private activities. And I don't think the video, maybe. Okay, so the video doesn't work, but you saw what the bathrooms look like. Okay, so phasing. So we are still developing the phasing plan. And so one of the things you'll see on here is that a big thing that we felt to get the best progression for phasing is to break the addition into 2 pieces. And what our goal is to get the classrooms both on the first and second floor as operational as fast as possible, so that way that we can begin to do more renovation. Because really, as said before, we have every classroom is full, every space is full. So the faster that we can get the 22 classrooms operational, the faster that we can start to do the renovation. So we are showing the dark pink area to be completed earlier, and the lighter pink area to be completed in a second phase. But it's all, the goal of this is to have everything done by December of '24. And so that way we can have complete operation of that and really start to maximize our ability to renovate. Now, summer of 24 and summer of 25 are going to be big renovation times, especially for the main gym and the auxiliary gym are big renovation times because we can't take those spaces down during the year. The other piece that is a big renovation for the summer is going to be your CTE labs. What we can't do is we can't take those spaces down during the year. So again, we want to focus on doing the summertime. So again, this is the phasing plan. What is important, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, what's important is that our goal as part of this and what we're presenting to the contractor is that we want to have this project completed by December of 25. We do not want to go into calendar year 26. I know in the previous conversation that we had that, we believe that by taking the phase one, which is the addition, and breaking it into two pieces, that we can in fact be able to get this construction completed by December. So when students come back, January 3rd of 26, the building is complete and the contractors are no longer on site. So project schedule, where are we? So we advertised for bidding. We notified the contractors yesterday and said, hey, we're ready. And so it has now been 48 hours, and the amount of interest has been extreme, which is fantastic. We've had a lot of contractors already reach out to us and say, hey, we heard about this, we want to know more, which is great. So the drawings themselves, the drawings and the specifications in their entirety are going to be available to the contractors on the 12th, which is next Monday. Okay, so they're already placing orders, and we're going to compilate all those, and then we're going to start releasing those drawings next Monday for all the contractors to start pricing those. We're going to have questions. We're going to have at least 2 periods where we allow them to walk through the building and be able to give them a tour and ask questions and be able to poke their head above the ceilings to make sure they understand what what they are and what they are not doing. So look, we're looking to receive bids on July 11th, which is just after the holiday. And our goal is to start construction in the beginning of August. Okay, so the goal is to have all the fencing and be able to start construction this summer, so that way when the students come back, there's already a lot of the mechanisms in place, and there's not a big change. Now, we ourselves need to be agile. We need to be agile during construction because materials still aren't arriving, and switch gear and all those other pieces, and the contractors are going to fall a little bit behind in this phase, but they're going to be ahead on this phase. So there's going to be times where we're going to ask and say, hey, we're getting done early. Can we move to this phase earlier than expected? Or, hey, this is taking a little bit longer because the materials didn't arrive on time, even though they were ordered properly. But again, the goal, of this project is to be complete and to have all construction done by December of 25, so that we are not going to calendar year 26. So that's what we have to present for tonight. Does anybody have any questions?
Well, it's a lot of information, and I have been waiting for it. So thank you. I do have a couple of questions with our virtual fly-through.
Okay.
The collaborative learning space that looks out over the cafeteria. Are those panels open? Is that open there, or is it ceiling, glass up to the ceiling?
Yeah, so from the cafeteria up to the second floor is enclosed. So while you're going to see motion, the volume of noise will not be up there. So the students will actually be able to focus without having the loudness of the cafeteria during that dining period.
Okay, so
It's glass.
everything is glass to the ceiling, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And I don't know if I missed it, but where do you go to the CET with the new plan? How do you get to that section of the building?
So
You want to go back in there?
Yep. So CTE spaces. This is. So let's go back a little bit.
Right, I know where it's at on this, but with the virtual fly-through?
Oh, we
can
didn't
you see
get
that?
there.
You didn't get there, okay.
Did not
I
go
was
over to the
gonna say,
CTE
did I miss
space.
that?
No, so if you remember when we came down and we did that little bit of running, and then we saw the area on the second floor of the auditorium.
Right.
If you would turn left, that would take you over to CT, but we did not in the video go over to that space.
Okay. So there was concern, especially with me, when that bridge thing went away, not to have students be out in the weather going back and forth. So we are still inside. Students aren't going to have to go outside.
Correct.
Okay.
Not unless they want to have outdoor dining, in the rain.
Well,
Yeah, that's always an option, but yes, to go from one space to another, they can always be inside.
Okay, so now you can show me on this one, how do we get there?
Okay, so on the second floor, so if the students were in lower level, so if they enter the front door, they can go up the stairs here. And now you've entered these stairs, and you can go around, go down here, and then here, and this is all CTE. So all of this blue, light blue, and dark blue, this is all CTE. So this is culinary, cosmetology, childcare, your robotics, all those spaces up there. So it's really just coming down this corridor and then going down this corridor to get to the CTE space.
It's about the same direction.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm so excited.
We are too.
I cannot wait.
Any other questions? Sorry.
The gyms. So one appears to be a little bit smaller than the other, right?
Yes.
And then we still have the wrestling room underneath, okay, without the pillar. Yeah.
One thing that I didn't mention, so yes, this is your current main gym here. Probably the biggest improvement that we're making, not only are we replacing the floor, but the bleachers. So for those who've been in there, the bleachers fold forward to kind of create that little pocket space, which is odd at best. And so one of the things that we're going to be doing differently is we're going to be closing off all of the back access and moving the bleachers across. So now when you have normal phys ed class and these bleachers are folded back, you're going to have 2 full basketball court size going in this direction, which will have much more ability for phys ed. So we're making functional improvements of your current gymnasium, not just replacing the bleachers and painting and I said acoustics are also another big thing. But yes, the new auxiliary gym is a little bit smaller, but it is still a full basketball court size, and we are still going to have enough room there for bleachers. I think about 250 is the number of bleachers in the auxiliary gym. So we are definitely expanding your offerings.
Okay. And the concessions outside for the what do you call our athletics?
So in the gymnasium lobby on the inside?
No, what is the yellow piece off of the gym on the end there?
So this is your current entry. So you have that outside entry, and so we are going to be making improvements on the interior finishes, but we're not changing any program in that space.
Okay.
And we are adding a concessions on the interior. So right here off of the gym lobby, that you'll be able to go from the auxiliary gym or the main gym to be able to access concessions right there in the gymnasium lobby.
When we breaking ground?
Soon.
Any other questions, board?
I had just a couple of small ones, based on the walkthrough. Everything looked great, super awesome. So one, on the exterior view, you showed the lighter colored brick and then that darker gray bluish brick. Is that brick, does it come that color, or is that going to be painted once it's installed? How's that work?
Yes, sir. It would come that color, and what we'll do is have the mortar to match. We would not paint the brick because that would be just a maintenance nightmare for you guys.
Exactly, and that was my question, right? Okay.
So yes, we could actually buy the brick in different colors. The grays and the reds are all, and the tans are all just a natural color. Part of it is also how they fire it. Get you the color itself. But yes, it is all a natural clay product.
Gotcha. That's awesome. Now I had one, I noted in the walkthrough you had the little collaborative space upstairs there, and Penny noted that as well. I just wanted to lob in an opinion there. I feel like in Blacksburg High School, they incorporated a bunch of those spaces too, and they never get used, right? Because they're out in the hallways and students aren't just chilling out in the halls during the day, right? So
I felt the same way. We minimized some of those
Okay.
Because we felt like they could be better used as other spaces. So there are 1 or 2, but there were a lot in the original plan, and we said, let's recapture those. And that's when we shifted, where we were able to regain so much space, was by using what had previously been just collaborative. We may use it for something, and we decided, let's plan what we're going to use it for right now.
awesome.
So the capacity, the capacity is
1,600.
1,600.
Anyone
last
else?
couple of years, we'll see.
Anyone else?
Yeah, so I'm going to touch on what Linwood said about the brick. I think it's awesome because it's school colors. Because we got the blue and the gold, because they've got the navy and the gold. So as much as I am loving having a new school, I'm kind of an old soul, and I like to kind of keep things from the old school. Are we still looking at having some things from the current structure as far as pictures, as far as certain things, as far as brick, maybe with some other things that we had talked about for alumni to possibly help with putting things in? I know at one time we talked about something out front
Like a brick
with the
walkway?
brick, with names of alumni if they wanted to purchase a brick and things like that. Are we still looking at those type of things possibly?
Actually, the outside dining space is a great opportunity. Along with, if you saw the flagpole, there's kind of a whole space there that we have benches that are set up there, so we could do honorific benches. So there is really a lot of opportunity on the front elevation where folks are going to be able to do just that piece.
Okay, because I know that Penny, Jamie helped me. How long has that school been standing the way it is right now? How long has that school been?
72.
Yeah.
There's a lot of history there.
I went in as a junior.
Yeah, there's a lot of history there. So I'm an alumni now. My daughter's an alumni. So I just want to make sure that we can kind of keep that. I still want some vibes from the people that went there long ago to still kind of transfer over there but super excited, and it's gorgeous. Thank you.
And another opportunity too for that, Ms. Parton, is in the signage that Josh was showing you. So we'll be able to help decide what goes on those signs. And so that's a perfect opportunity, to show state champ of this, or, this was a graduate who did X, Y, and Z. So that gives the school a lot of opportunity to be involved in that.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Josh.
Okay, thank you so much. Have a great evening.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Have a great drive, Josh. Thank you.
The next item on our agenda is the project updates for MCPS.
Yes, I have lots of updates for you. All right. So just to kind of take us back to speed through the last year or so, I have been providing you updates on projects in MCPS that needed attention and updates on where we are with those projects. So tonight I'm going to go through them and just give you an update where we are as of today. Please know that if there were projects that we previously, asked, hey, could we do this, and Esser denied us, and I noted that to you, I removed them from this presentation so that it didn't continue to grow and grow and grow. So old updates, I have removed. As a reminder, when we were looking at this, we were trying to, in the beginning, determine how to reallocate some funds so that we could move forward with Christiansburg High School as planned, but still utilize ESSER funding in an allowable timeframe. I will share with you, the ESSER funding, every division gets a little nervous, as Josh mentioned. We're trying to get materials and supplies in, and so that's why we are moving so quickly on these projects, because all of the school divisions are doing what we are, and so the faster that we are able to secure the products that we need, the more likely we are to get them in a timely fashion. I did want to note for you on the first slide, this was a slide that showed what our funds were and how we designated them. We did get about close to $91,000 in additional funding from the Board of Supervisors from the tax that they give us, and so we wanted to make the board aware of that. You can see we've not designated those funds for anything at this time, but I did want to make you aware of those additional funds. The presentation, as a reminder, there were priority needs. Those were the ones that we determined must be addressed right away. And then things on our current renovations that we felt had not been addressed appropriately in the original plans for those schools. So we decided that we needed to do those projects moving forward. So our priority needs, we're going to start with our safety updates. I'd first like to acknowledge the work of our project managers. They've done an exceptional job throughout this year. When you hear the number of projects in the works right now, I think you're going to be really shocked at the work that that team is doing. So the first safety needs, these were the ones that were related to our sprinkler and water systems. At East Monk Elementary School, as you know, there was a problem. The sprinkler system works, but it does not work at the level of pressure that is needed. And so we have had fire watch going there this year. What that means, again, is that there's a staff member on staff at all times, just walking the building, making sure that it is safe. And so we were approved at that original amount of $128,000. We have a revised estimate, and I'd like to use the word estimate there, of $375,000. That is the best guess at this moment while we are waiting on those designs to come back. We worked collaboratively for months with the board, the PSA, and the employees over there, as well as with our team and with our fire marshal to look at the problems and determine how best to move forward. So I really applaud that collaborative work. And where we landed was that we need to do an internal pump room. And what that means is it'll be a room inside of a room that will have its own pumping system. And so right now that is in the design phase. We also have a 30-day required generator load capacity testing that's taking place right now. So until that 30-day capacity time is done, we really can't move forward. So it's good that it's happening at the same time as the design phase. And then just as a reminder, we do have the daily fire watch personnel. Anytime that people are in the building, we have someone whose job is dedicated to do that. Christiansburg Elementary, Falling Branch, and Montgomery Central, SMS, and AES. I'm going to kind of give you that update all together. So those projects were, as you know, approved for Esser funding. At Christiansburg Middle School, the parts have arrived, and we'll be installing them this summer. At Falling Branch, the line replacement has already been completed. One of the 2 switches needs to be replaced, and that's on order at this time. At Auburn Elementary and SMS, the plans have been completed. We are required by the county to do a third-party review, which does add a little bit of an extra expense to us. They don't have the staff right now to do the review, so we have to do that separately. And so that's the phase in that we are in at this time, is getting that third-party review done. Our safety needs, Mr. Garrettson has been working with you all throughout the year. He collected the data from the safety survey. And so right now we are exploring door barricading systems and locks on the classrooms. He's purchased samples to bring in so that we can evaluate those and look at them. He can work with the safety committee on those. And so that's one expected expenditure of those funds. We've also purchased LifeVac choking devices for every single school. Those have already been purchased as we're moving forward. Additional items that we are talking about addressing are cameras within the schools and also some locking mechanisms that we have within the buildings. Our roofing priorities, Bellevue and Elementary School, although these were existing projects, they rose to the level of priority. You may remember I was surprised to find that we had not addressed the roofs in the buildings that were recently renovated, and that was something that needed to be done. So for Bellevue and Christiansburg Elementary School, the bid process have begun. The work will begin during the summer with completion at the start of the year. Montgomery Central, the bid process just closed, and I can't speak more about it because we're in the award phase at this time on that project. At Shawsville Middle School, the scope of the work there has expanded, and so we've had a little bit of a difficult time finding the right people to help us with that job, but we've now been able to get the right people on the job, and so we have an industrial hygienist. They have evaluated it, and they're now creating a design plan for us. Right now, we put a small amount of money into that, and we're not exactly sure what that full repair cost is going to be till we get the design plan back. Once we get that, we'll come back to the board with more information. If I'm going too fast, please let me know. For our HVAC priorities, they were approved for Esser funding as well. Bellevue and Christiansburg Elementary School are in the design phase at this time. Harding Avenue and Kips, the design has been completed and they are out for bid at this time. Those bids will close on June 29th. Our cooling tower at Auburn Elementary School was completed in February. Our building exterior priorities at Bellevue Elementary School, the kitchen loading dock, the design has been completed and the work is being completed over the summer. I do want to note for you all where you are seeing, I provided you both the original estimate and the revised amount. We put these into categories. So for example, and I'm sorry I didn't note it earlier, let me go back to the roofing. You'll notice on the roofing, so Bellevue, we thought it would be about 1.2 and it came in at 800,000. Christiansburg Elementary, we thought it was going to be 1.1. It came in at 1.4. And so you see between the two, we put them into Esser as a group, roofing projects. So we have the funding to cover those as we are moving forward with that. When we get to projects that we don't have the funding for, then we would update you and make sure that we were utilizing the funding that you would ask us to for those projects. Back to those building exterior needs, so Bellevue Elementary School, the kitchen loading dock was not addressed in the renovation, and so that design has been completed. The work is being done over the summer, and it is being completed out of the money that was remaining from those project funds. The same for Eastern Montgomery Elementary School. Not the same, actually very different. The estimate came in $111,000 higher than what we anticipated. And so at this time, we've got it on hold until we determine which additional funding. My recommendation to the board is we can't wait too long, but we need to wait for some of these other bids to come back before we automatically say, hey, we want to take any additional funding and move it to this project. I think we need to wait to get the priority information back and then have the board make a decision about which projects, when it was above, that we want to move forward with. Our grounds priorities at Shawsville Middle School was repairing the concrete steps and sidewalk, and so that was approved through Esser 3 funding. The plan is for it to be completed over the summer. I got an update just the other day. We may have to push that out until Christmas, but I will keep you apprised of that situation. Our plumbing priorities at Montgomery Central, replacing the water lines. It's been approved and it is currently in the design phase. Updating the current renovation projects, as we shared with you, Bellevue Elementary School, we allocated $100,000 for the playground. It has been ordered and it's going to be installed over the summer. Painting the exterior doors and windows and changing the interior doors. Those will be completed over the summer using funds that were already allocated for projects. Christiansburg Elementary School, the parking area, we had originally estimated about $15,000, came in way higher than what we thought it might. And as through last year, we spoke with the principal and assessed how they were doing with the parking that they had and how the bus pattern was working for them. And we have decided at this time not to move forward with that additional parking. It is something certainly that we could revisit. For me, when I look at Christiansburg Elementary School, we're never going to have parking for all of the parents that we would want right there on the property. And for me, that would be a real driving factor of putting the money behind this. This would only get us about 15 to 20 additional spots. And so we feel like where we are right now will be meeting those needs, and the principal feels confident that will continue to work. Also for them is painting the exterior doors and windows and the interior doors as well. Christiansburg Primary, the multi-purpose room was not addressed. And so for me, I personally think those are one of the spaces all of our families come to and all of our children are in. And so to not address that in a renovation seems like an oversight to me. So that will be completed over the summer. It looks so cheap because we're doing it ourselves. That's why the difference in the cost there. The Operations Center, as you know, we've been working through the year to try and come up with our alternative plan. The property that we were on previously, we are out of. We are into new rental properties at this time. The underground detention system has been installed. We met with the town just last week, which was a great meeting. They're great partners, and we're able to talk about the plan that we're going to have there for the parking lot. Our engineer is working on the drawings at this time for the grading and paving, and those will be moved forward. This one for the Operations Center is really going to be all the cards falling together at the right time so that we can bring the board a recommendation about what to do. We're continuing to rent space for our buses and for our storage, and the ultimate goal is that we are not paying rent, but that we are able to put our materials onto property and not be spending monthly rent to do that. So we'll continue to assess that and bring you something hopefully by the end of the summer. At Montgomery Central, they did not have a playground. As you know, when we took the gym for the bus garage, the students had nowhere to be. And so this is getting done this summer, and at the start of next year, they will have a basketball court at Montgomery Central. It's also important for the community to note at Montgomery Central, the paving that we're doing and the plan that is being devised right now will return that green space to be space available for recreational sports. It was very much used by teams previously, and so the goal with it not being completely parking is to give that space back to our community so that it's available to be used again. One additional project I wanted to update you on, I know that we had been asked to look into the Eastern Montgomery High School track. We completed a track study that just came back last week. And so what they will do now is they will create a design for that track. We do not have funding at this time, so we need to know kind of how much it's going to be and then come to the board so that you can determine, as we complete our master facilities plan, what you would like to do and how you would like to try to address that. What questions do you have?
I appreciate the update. It's nice to see that things are moving forward and things are being corrected and making sure our buildings are what they need to be.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was a lot, Annie, thank you. And everything's important, but we need to somehow, if we can, we need to make sure that those Eastern Montgomery High School students can participate in track this upcoming school year. So I'd like to try to see a way for us to hopefully get a jump on that. And I think it went way too long before it got addressed, which is what we're looking at now. But, you know, those students deserve to be able to use the track for not only for PE, but for their sport as well. So thank you on that.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Whitaker.
You're
Are
welcome.
you also doing the strategic plan update?
I am. I wore my flats today. First, I would like, oh, sorry.
Whenever you're ready.
First, I would like to ask the individuals who were on the committee with me for this component of the strategic plan that attended tonight, if you wouldn't mind to stand up for us. Oh, come on, I see you don't. Just wave your hand. All right. And so I appreciate so much the members of the committee, both for participating and also for coming tonight. We had about 20 people on the committee that are work together to present the work that you're going to see this evening. And it means a lot. The goal was to have representation from schools, from community groups, from businesses, and from nonprofits as well. So a reminder for you, this is the standard template that we've used for our strategic plan updates. We're going to remind you of the goal that the school board set forward. We're going to tell you what the progress on that goal is. That will either be planning, we're still working on it, implemented, that it's done, we're going to keep doing it and move forward as part of MCPS processes, or completed, it's just something that we needed to do and we are done with it. So I'll give you the progress. So the step of the action plan that our group was asked to address was, it said the community will be aware of multiple ways that the school facilities will be used. And so the action step was assessing community and outside organizational needs of existing buildings. That was completed. What we did, we formulated a committee. That committee analyzed our building use opportunities and worked to develop streamlined systems that you'll see in the policy that's coming after this to ensure an ease of understanding of how to access our buildings and also make it a little bit easier for folks to do that. We were supposed to develop a design of communal spaces. We didn't really know what that meant, right? That can be used for multiple purposes, and so we needed to identify what does that look like. So we asked our principals to let us know what are all the spaces in your schools that could be used for communal spaces, and as we move forward, we would then publish that out to the community so that they could see, do I need a meeting room for this many people? These are the buildings that I could use to do that. Do I need to be able to have access to a kitchen? This is what I would need to do that, so that it'll be a little bit easier. Instead of just calling school by school, what do you have? They would be able to look in a directory, see what they would need, and then align with the space that they would like to use. And so the principals identified that, and then the committee examined our current practices, and we're bringing a policy to you tonight for your first reading. The next step was to effectively communicate to all stakeholders the ways that the school facilities can be used to meet the needs of the local community and to publicize availability on district websites as well as social media outlets and applicable stakeholder meetings. So that's planning, because until we get these other things done, we don't have anything to communicate. So once we get the plan completed, then we would work on the communication plan for that. Learning environment next steps. So as a reminder for you, the master facilities plan said that it will incorporate community feedback and previously approved renovations and additions at CES, CPS, and BES. So we are well underway for that. Safety and security says that master facilities plan will incorporate best practices for safety and security by engaging experts in the annual process of creating and reviewing plans. So we're in the planning process for this. As Josh shared with you, we did ask him to present at our recent safety meeting, and so he was able to share with law enforcement the plans of the high school and get their feedback. We also have been collecting data throughout the year for the master facilities plan. We've even been counting parking spots. So we are working diligently. I'd like to thank Julie Wade and the facilities team, John Sutton and our other leads. They've worked very closely together to look at the age of how old are our HVACs? How many parking spots do we have? We're really looking at every single thing within our building so that we can bring to you later a comprehensive plan of what we need to do and when. Some of these things are what we call PM, our preventative maintenance. Other things are projects that will need to be done. We certainly missed some, I'm sure, in our priorities needs list, and we wouldn't want any schools to feel excluded. And so we're working on that. That's one of my jobs over this summer. My hope is to have that to you at the end of the summer or very beginning of the fall, so that we can bring to you that comprehensive plan. What questions do you have? We have been working real hard. And so the policy, I think, is right after this one. If you want me to go ahead and do that.
So we'll lead into the community use of school facilities, policy 2-4.1. This is the first reading, if you'd like to go over that, Dr.
Yeah,
Whitaker.
I would love to go over that with you. So as a reminder, the goal was to make sure the community is aware of how buildings can be used. We had a community member earlier who referenced the differences in the policies that you see tonight. We did try to make it a little bit easier. So you have a clean version, and then you have the red version that shows everything that we marked out. I think it just makes it a little bit easier for you to see what will that final product look like. So the goal was to make it more accessible to our community by making this a little bit more streamlined. Our policy was hard to understand why things were the way they were. Some of our previous committee members said, hey, we just picked something. We kind of had to pick as well because that's what you do, but we tried to streamline it. You'll see within this policy, we wanted to make it easier. But these are the notes of the main changes that you would see. So the first is we added a line that says, not only do we want our facilities to be available, but we want to provide procedures to regulate the use of facilities in order to ensure clear understanding. And what that means is anybody should be able to know how to access our properties in the same ways and should be treated the same way. One organization, if they are charged, another organization should be charged. And so the goal of making it easy to understand and follow, both for community members, but for staff as well. Other additional changes that you're going to see are we removed building attendants and we added personnel services. And the reason for that was the current policy right now says that you must clean up after yourself. And if you don't, then we'll charge you. They're not cleaning up after themselves. And then our custodians come in and they have their regular work and the work that was left for them from the weekend. I've come in to look at buildings over the weekend and the trash littered all over the properties and out in the front of the buildings. So what we're going to do is we're going to begin to charge people for the damage on the property. And so they will have to have a building attendant, but they are also going to have someone who is cleaning. The amount of charge for the cleaning will depend on the mess that they leave us. And so if a group is cleaning up after themselves, then our staff will come in and do the last minute cleaning. It's also a safety, for me, it's a safety thing. We want to make sure that the tables are wiped and cleaned before our children are eating on them. We want to make sure that the spaces that were cleaned by our staff and then used by somebody else are ready for our students and staff when they come in the next day. And that helps us make sure that any residue, any things that might be there are wiped down and cleaned at our standard and our level. You're also going to see on their attendance, so we have technology fees. If our technology staff have to come out and work an event, they need to be paid for that. And so we have fees on there for our building attendants, we have fees for our custodial services, and our kitchen, we had before, kitchen attendant and technology attendant. Another difference you're going to see is there were millions, not millions, maybe 25 different rates. For this, it's that. For this, it's that. We wanted to streamline it as a committee and make it easier with the goal of actually collecting the money It was really hard for people to know from school to school what to charge for a room, for a space. So the idea being, if the attendants are needed to clean up afterwards and we're charging for that, we're going to make sure that we're covering our bases. The space, the goal of the board was to make them open and available. So there's standard charges, whether you're indoors or outdoors. It's going to be $50 for that space at $150 maximum for the day. We looked back at what we have been charging and the money that we've been collecting, and we feel like with a more streamlined process, we're actually going to be able to bring in more than we were before because our principals will have an easier time of knowing what to do. So those are the main changes that you see there. We also did include what was not there before, was a damages fee. Of course, we would have assessed that, but we're going to make sure that folks know up front, anything you damage, you're going to pay full price for the repair of that. Just because, again, if it's broken, we have to pay to fix that. So those are the main changes that you will see within that policy. It's a lot shorter because we took out all of those individual prices, but I wanted to provide you the biggest updates on what was different within that plan.
Thank you, Dr. Whitaker. I know Ms. Bond is going to want to comment first, so go ahead.
I bet I could read her bubble.
Ideal. It's still, though, we're not finding out what my whole concern with just the facilities at all, indoor or outdoor, where the money goes and how it feeds back into
The programs.
the programs. Because just like you said, people aren't cleaning up after themselves. They're not picking up. It is getting used. They are getting wore down. And then when whatever organization, whether it's auditorium, whether it's football field, whether it's baseball field, whatever, basketball, whatever it is, track, then they're going back and saying, hey, you know, this is run down and we don't have any money. Well, where's the rent money that,
Right.
so how are we heading that up to
So-
fix that problem?
Yeah, so the staffing money will go to pay payroll, right? You know, they'll be charged at the amount of the rate for that person, so that money won't go to the schools. But the money for the use of the facilities will go back to those programs. We also added in a component to incentivize donations. So we have some organizations who, you know, say want to work on a certain field, or they want to, anybody wants to pay for the EMHS track, you know, donations would then equal facility use. So if an organization pays $5,000 because they want to help us with field maintenance that we need, they would then have a credit for that amount of use of our facility as well, so that that money would go directly to that program. Let's say it's the baseball field, they would be able to help the baseball field, they would benefit from that, and then that individual would get use of the facility as well. We also really strengthened our long-term agreements. And that's, I think, where the biggest things come in. It's not the one-off individuals who want to use a property for one time and they're never going to use it again. It is our repeat individuals. And so they will be required to enter into a memorandum of understanding or a long-term contract with us. So that if they are planning, hey, I'm going to have every practice here, then they need a contract with us and we'll know how much we're going to bring in and we'll be able to allocate those funds to the schools.
Okay, so allocating them to the schools is great, but it still doesn't come down to allocating it to the program that's getting used.
Oh, no, yes, it would go
So
to the
can you
program.
earmark on there, hey, this $1,500 that came in for rent
Yes.
for the auditorium goes into the auditorium funding for replacement of seats, replacing of stages, replacing of curtains, lights, whatever, a sound system, whatever it might be, that's been used. I know in a baseball was where it came from because that's what's happening right now at CHS. Their field's getting used all the time. And like I said, when they're wanting to go back and fix the things and well, there's no money or we don't have that for that, you know, we've already been through that. So if it just goes into a school account.
Each
and it's
of the
not
teams has an
earmarked.
account, and so within their student activity accounts, the way that we are trying to streamline the process, we'll be able to put the funds that are for that group into their account. The accounts already exist. So
Okay.
it's just streamlining and making sure who's using it, who's the, you know, typically those are our building attendants or the people from that group, right?
Right.
Who are saying, or an athletic director. So they're saying, yes, we'll agree to be here for this event. And then we'll be able to get those funds back to the appropriate group.
Good girl.
Anybody else have any questions on this? Okay, this will come back to you for second reading and a vote at the next meeting. All right, our next item on the agenda is the middle and high school health textbook adoption. Do I have a motion to approve the middle and high school health textbook adoption as presented? Notice, thank you. Ms. Drake, could we call roll?
Have some
Oh,
comments?
discussion,
Yeah,
okay.
discussion. I brought this up last week, and I'm going to bring it up again this week, and because I'm going to vote no, assuming this is still the same. I think that spending $300,000 on a health textbook that is used only by a quarter of the students each quarter or semester, I think that's just really a lot. And I don't see the need to have, I think having a classroom set of textbooks is sufficient. And I think we're spending an enormous amount of money here. I always worry with the digital. It sounds really great, and you know, these book groups, publishers are very good at selling it, making it sound like having digital resources is, you know, the end all be all, and you have to have it, has to all be digital. But I wonder if what we're really getting, you know, what's necessary with this kind of expenditure. I think it's ridiculous to spend. I wish we would look a little closer at something like this and really think about, I look here, 2,200, and I'm not even quite sure I understand what this means. The quantity is 2,200, and then the Essential Health Middle School, 6 years. So it's a 6-year program. What does that mean by 6 years? What is it for? I mean, is there anybody who can answer that question for me? Hello again.
Good.
Good. All right, so the 2,200 would be the amount of middle school students that we have.
Right.
So the 6-year period would be a 6-year adoption. So over those 6 years, those licenses would continue to go to those students. So let's say next year's 8th graders, once they're done with their license, they will move on to 9th grade. So then they'll get that 9th grade book. But the upcoming 5th graders will come in and they'll get the 6th grade license. The 7th grade will move up to the 8th grade and so on. Does that make sense? So those keep renewing every year. And I know you're skeptical about the online piece, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like all of our other textbooks that we're adopting are online. I think that's just what I've been told that
We're
we have
heading
to
that
do.
way, yes.
So that's not my choice. But with that being said, with these particular textbooks that you're talking about, all students, once they have their license, they can access this from any device. They can access it from their phone, from their Chromebook, from a laptop, from anywhere. And once they have it, it's available in English, or they can choose Spanish. So we don't have to buy 2 different textbooks because they can choose which way they want to read it. It works with comprehension and retention, with interactive games that they can do anytime that they want. It doesn't have to be assigned by the classroom teacher. There's flashcards, there's quizzes, there are online student workbooks. So instead of purchasing the workbooks are already on there online, so they can do that work online, along with your handouts and your assessments that teachers can assign. If we just get the regular textbook, those things don't come with it. We have to purchase those. So that's an added incentive. And the other thing that's really important to me is that this particular textbook, as things change, and I'll use COVID as an example, as things change and new things arise, that textbook is automatically updated. We don't have to pay for the update. It's just updated online. So it's already there for our students to be able to access.
Very nice. It sounds like this was well thought through. Thank you.
So I just have a question. How many students, because I guess I might be misunderstanding, but I thought all middle school students took health and PE. They do?
They
So
do.
it's 100%.
So it's
not a quarter of
100%.
students. It's, did I misunderstood that?
No, and
Okay.
last time we had the meeting, Ms. Cash, she said something about the students not having health every day. And she's right, they don't have health every day, but what you also need to understand is that our health and physical educators, they don't only have to teach physical health, and they have to do those PE SOLs. They also have to do all of our health SOLs, along with family life, along with our Too Good for Drugs program. Every year in July, something else is added to our plate, such as situational awareness for 7th and 8th graders. That has to also be covered. 9th grade, first aid, CPR, AED training, that has to be covered. So they have so much in this one year that they have to get covered. So there's no way they can teach PE every day. There's no way they can teach health every day. So they have to figure it out, along with their spacing and all the other teachers in the building, how that works. But no, it's not just a fraction of their time. And middle school has not had health books in quite some time. So they're relying on just what they can find on their own. So they don't have anything to work from. And I will comment that Jackson Matherly, who did a great job with his public address, he mentioned poor mental health, substance abuse, and sexual risk, all of which are topics that your health and your educators are teaching to. It's not just being physically fit or being well. It's the mental, it's the social, it's the emotional health, and everything else that goes along with it. So I can't tell you how important these books would be for our teachers, but especially for our students.
I'm not saying we don't purchase books. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that let me ask you this. How many students are taking health at one time?
Just depends on what school you're in. So those numbers are all going to be different. So let me
Or what
use
grade.
Christiansburg.
Right.
Let me
Or
use
what grade?
Right. So we could use Christiansburg Middle School as an example. Let's just say they have 5 PE teachers. 3 of them are going to teach health the same days. The other 2 are going to be in the gym. So let's just say they teach on Mondays and Wednesdays. One group teaches Mondays and Wednesdays. The other group is teaching Tuesdays and Thursdays. And they flip-flop that. So
A student takes health 3 times a week?
it could be. Just depends on which.
For the whole entire year?
It depends on the school and what schedule they have set up. I can't say that specifically what each school is doing. Some of them do a week on and a week off. Again, it depends on which school we're looking at. But it should be 50% of the time.
So they're doing PE 50% of the time and health 50% of the time?
Should be.
Okay, should be or they are?
They should be. I mean, I would say that they are, but I'm going to tell you they should be. I'm not in their class with them every single day to make sure that's what they're doing. But that's the expectation.
Okay.
Does anyone else have any other questions?
Well, I didn't say I was done, but, okay.
Just to follow up on that too, the way it used to be, and I don't know if it still is, but even in the high school level, freshmen and sophomores were required until you're junior, and then it's optional. But even as a freshman and sophomore, you're required to take your health and PE.
That's correct.
It's not sophomore anymore, though.
Sophomore, yes. It's just driver ed.
'Cause that's
Driver
when
ed is
you're
included
doing your
in the
driving.
Oh, it's driver, it's because it's driver ed.
Yeah,
But there's
I
also
mean,
health that's
so
in there.
you've got 5 years of students worth. Even if it's alternate days, you still have all of students
Right.
taking it and touching base with it.
Right.
So am I thinking that right?
You are correct.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
I know that that's a big number just to look at it, as a lump sum, but once you divide it out across 6 years and 2,200 students, it's $17 a kid
Right.
each year, so.
And we're not talking about a fraction of kids with some of the textbooks that we're adopting. We're talking about every single kid.
So we're going to get 2,200 digital setups every year?
For the 6-year period that we have, all of those students will have a license for that 6-year period.
Okay. So I'm still not following that. Because I thought once you use a license, you can't use it again.
Once you use that license, yes, but those licenses replenish because we've got the 6-year period. So they replenish for those 6 years.
So all 2,200 students will have a new one every year.
Right.
Okay.
Any other questions? Do I have a motion to approve the middle and high school health textbook adoption as presented?
We have the motion.
You already
and a
did
second.
that.
Oh, I'm sorry. So we have a motion and a second. We had discussion. Ms. Drake, will you please call roll?
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin? Yes. Ms. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Ms. Cass?
No.
Ms. Parton?
Yes.
5 in favor, 1 opposed.
Motion carries. The next item on our agenda is policy 5-1.8, abusive work environment. This is the first reading on this, and Mr. Knott is going to come talk to us about this. Thank you.
So as you remember, this is a policy you asked us to look at and revise, and so this is our attempt at providing you with the policy that you asked for. This policy adds a process for reporting abusive conduct, abusive work environment, physical harm, and psychological harm. This policy also has a report form that is dedicated to just this policy. We did vet this policy with our legal counsel, and I shared, it will be shared with our employees to be included with our mandatory orientation presentation that we do every year with other items that we're required to share with them. But we would add this in there because that was one of the things that you asked for, to make sure they knew how employees knew how to report abusive work environments.
Now, one of the things I know we talked about was the anonymous piece, and I saw where you had put a kind of a disclaimer in there a bit. How do they submit these? Does it get submitted to the HR department?
So they would submit these first to their direct supervisor unless the direct supervisor was the cause of the abuse. If their direct supervisor is cause of the abuse, then they would submit it directly to us.
Okay.
The direct supervisor would take a look at it to see if it was something that they can work on or if it's something they need to turn over to HR.
Okay.
They would contact us and we would talk about it.
Okay.
And then we would then meet with the individual and then we would work on an investigation.
So the form, do you feel like it's comprehensive enough that if it were submitted anonymously, that you could begin an investigation?
I do.
Okay.
We're also working with technology for a hotline, some way to report anonymously through a hotline as
Okay.
part of the other, gosh, I just forgot the number, but the last policy we worked on.
Sure, yes.
The whistleblower policy.
Right, right.
So that would be, they could report it that way as well.
Okay. I know this is a big one for me, so I appreciate the work.
I just want to follow up on that question. I mean, I appreciate the answer, but it didn't sound like the answer was, yes, there's an anonymous way to do this. The form, the first thing you complete is your name and address.
But there will be an anonymous way with the hotline.
Okay, so there isn't yet, but we're still
There
pursuing.
isn't yet, but that, we're in the works to get that
Okay.
done.
But you can also, it says it in there, you can also submit it without the name. The disclaimer that's actually on the form says we may not be able to investigate it as thoroughly,
Correct.
but it does say you can submit it anonymously. The current form that's
Without-
in
with-
this policy.
Even though there's a space for name, if they submitted it without name, we would
So
investigate.
how would you submit it anonymously to a specific person? Like,
So they could
They could pony it to the HR.
they could mail it in without a
Mail it
return
in.
address. They could pony it
Right.
without a school location. That would be a little harder because we might be able to figure out where it came from. But if it's a work environment, abusive work environment issue, we're going to have to know the location of where
Sure.
that's occurring. So may not be able to figure out who it is. We wouldn't try necessarily either.
But they certainly can mail it. To HR. Anybody else have any other ideas on that?
Just thank you for sticking with it and understanding this important.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
It's very important. Thank you. So this will be brought back to us at the next meeting for,
I'm sorry, one more thing.
Oh, sorry.
This is very important for not only our adults and our staff and things, but do we still have something similar set up for our students concerning abusiveness or bullying? I know at one time, I think there was something set up, and this is probably way off topic, so I apologize.
I'm going to
But-
have to defer to Jason Garrettson because I
Okay,
don't know.
sorry, Jason.
I'm sorry, I don't
He
know
just
the
sparked
answer.
he sparked something in my mind, and I just, with everything going on with our kids, I want to make sure our kids are covered too, so.
We do have at least two policies that I can think of off the top of my head. There is some conversation still about that with code of conduct and also just in the general discrimination policy. As far as reporting, we do have a product that allows anonymous reporting. That's with us through technology.
Okay.
Doug can correct me on this if need be. It's getting ready to sundown.
Okay.
So the product is going away.
Okay,
We're already working, specifically Doug's already working
okay,
to help get us a new product
Okay.
in place to allow for anonymous reporting of lots of different concerns, bullying, harassment,
perfect.
safety,
Yes.
all of those types of things.
Okay.
Does that get it? The
Yeah, it
question?
does. I just wanted to make sure that the kids are normally more concerned with anonymity. Not that adults aren't, but they sometimes won't say anything if they think they're going to be found out. So I just want them to be able to speak up and speak out and know that they have somewhere they could report something to make sure that, to make us aware if something's going on we need to know about.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Knott and Mr. Garrettson. So this policy will be brought back to us for second reading and vote at the next meeting. All right. Ms. Drake, do you think you can help me a little bit on this one? The legislative policies are in front of you. These are from the 2023 state legislative session that affects us. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Or
Sure, I
Dr.
can talk
Reagan?
about, I believe those are the mandated updates from the 2023 state legislature that need to be incorporated into our policies.
Okay.
And we wanted to get them on so to be effective for July 1. We recently got those and didn't have enough time to vet them all and go over everything, but they're going to be incorporated into our policies. This is a first read, so if anybody has questions or something they want to discuss, please get it to us between now and the next meeting. We're more than happy to do that, but these are mandated from the state, so there's really not much flexibility there.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. All right. Our next item on the agenda is, and I am going to have to get your help again, Ms. Drake, on the VSBA Media Honor Roll. Could you explain why we are, why we have that on there?
Sure. So every year, the Virginia School Boards Association does a media honor roll. They solicit nominations from local school boards for reporters who provide fair, balanced, and accurate reporting about local educational issues in public schools. And so we have provided, after just talking with Dr. Bregan, we have asked for the board to consider placing Andrew Webb with WDBJ 7 on that list. We have found him to be someone who meets all of the requirements that the Virginia School Boards Association is asking for when it comes for a nomination for placement on that honor roll. Should the board approve the resolution, we would submit it to VSBA. VSBA would let us know once that placement occurs, and then we would ask Andrew to come and be present at a school board meeting to receive that recognition from you directly.
Great. Does anyone have any questions about that?
Motion to approve.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Ms. Drake, can you call roll, please?
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Ms. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Ms. Cass?
Yes.
Ms. Parton?
Yes.
6 in favor.
Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is our process for hiring and appointment of employees before August 1st. Since the board does not hold meetings in the month of July, we need to authorize the superintendent to hire and appoint employees between June 20th and August 1st of 2023 while the school board is on break. The school board will review appointments from this time at their August 1st meeting. Do I have a motion to put this in place?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? This is our normal procedure every year. Ms. Drake, can you call roll, please?
Ms. Bond? Yes. Ms. Franklin? No. Ms. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Ms. Cass?
Yes.
Ms. Parton?
Yes.
5 in favor, 1 opposed.
Our next item on the, motion carries. Our next item on the agenda is the 2022-2023 fiscal year end close and opening of fiscal year 2023-2024. The motion is to authorize the superintendent or their designee to review and approve payment of the final June invoices from the fiscal year 2022 to 2023 and July invoices from the fiscal year 2023-2024 appropriated budgets. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a
Second.
Second, thank you. Any discussion on this? Again, this is our normal protocol for this. Ms. Drake, will you please call roll?
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin? Yes. Ms. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Ms. Cass?
Yes.
Ms. Parton?
Yes.
6 in favor.
Motion carries. We do not have any unfinished business. Are there any items of new business? Hearing and seeing none. Announcements and information?
I was just going to say congratulations to Auburn Baseball. I heard that they won their first round tonight, and they will be moving on to the next level, so kudos to them.
Congratulations. And I just want to say, since we haven't met after graduation, I just want to say congratulations to all the students in the class of 2023. So proud of you. Graduation is always one of the most fun and best reasons for me to sit here on this board. I'm so proud of all of our kids, and I want to say a big thank you because they couldn't do it without the parents, the community, and especially our teachers and our staff. So thank you all for all you did all year to get those kids up and walking across that stage. We are so appreciative for you. You deserve a long, nice summer break, so thank you guys so much. And I did also want to publicly thank my District C down in Shawsville and Elliston. I want to say I apologize for not being at a couple of important meetings that you all had with Dr. Bragan. I had previous appointments that were scheduled way in advance, and I was just physically not able to be there. So thank you for your understanding on that. And I want to say thank you so much for speaking out about your concerns, and that I truly feel like Dr. Bragan truly feels like he understands where you're coming from and has the heart to do the right thing. So thank you for speaking out, and thank you for your understanding for my absence on that. So thank you so much.
I also want to add my own congratulations to all the graduates. Got my own in the house, which is cool. But it was a great day that day. I know, at least in Blacksburg, we had an awesome graduation ceremony there. Everything was very nice. Really appreciate all the hard work that went into that. I know, thanks for everybody that helped make that day go great. And congrats to all those graduates. Also wanted to add, this week I'll attend the first Southwest Virginia Governor's School meeting in their new facility down at the New River Community College in Dublin. So looking forward to seeing their new digs down there and meeting with them for the first time in a while.
I'm sorry, I'm going to steal it one more time. So everybody's graduation, I think, went as planned except for Christiansburg, and I know we were holding out to the last possible minute to see if we could hold our graduation outside. So I know we had some families that were put in some very stressful and difficult conditions and positions. However, our awesome staff and superintendent did a great job of handling it. We took our students from outside to inside without a hitch. And just want to say thank you to the families for your understanding. And Brenda Drake, thank you. A shout out for personally helping me that day. So it's much appreciated. And just thank Christiansburg. They had a serious move there without too much time beforehand, and they handled it wonderfully. So just wanted to give a shout out to CHS and their administration for the handling on that graduation as well.
Okay, so I would like to announce the Juneteenth celebration. That will be Saturday, the 17th, from 4 to 8 p.m. at the Edgar A. Long property at 140 Scattergood Drive in Christiansburg. And it is sponsored by the Christiansburg NAACP, CI alum, and the Old Hill School. So hope everyone will come out and enjoy the festivities, food trucks, and booths.
Any other announcements? Okay. Please find in the board docs upcoming school board meetings and what's on the agenda. At this time, we'll head into closed session to discuss personnel matters. Do I have a motion to enter into closed session as authorized by Section 2.2-3711 of the Code of Virginia to discuss 2 student matters and 3 personnel matters?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Drake, will you call roll?
Ms. Bond? Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Ms. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Ms. Cass?
Yes.
Ms. Parton?
Yes.
6 in favor.
We're now in closed session.
We were attacked.